everybody, welcome back to the Crazy Mayday channel. We're picking up back on this wave runner here where we left off a little bit ago. Some time's passed, but we have some parts, and I think what we're going to try to do is I got to continue on removing that upper shroud a little bit and basically get more access to our steering area where we're going to change out some of these bushings. I got these parts over here, I'll show you. Let me flip the camera around. So this rubber boot, I'm not sure if we actually going to need that. I'm going to dig in a little bit more. We have a little pipe seal, that's another one that I'm not sure of, but here's our bolt that we ended up breaking on the last video. Here's our two cables. This is our, I think, our reverse cable, and then we have our steering cable here. So that came in very nice. So we have our side ornaments is what they call them. So if you guys remember, these things were kind of green. I was talking to my buddy, and we were going to either wire, I guess sandblast these, not wire wheel them, sandblast them and get them painted up black. But we were able to do some eBay hunting, and we found some very nice used units that were basically, you know, they have fine little bit of scratches in them, but just a little bit of extra searching on the interwebs got us some nice used ones. So we're going to keep it OEM looking. I'm going to slide that back in the protector so it's protected. Sorry, I'm trying to hold the camera and work with one hand. Anyway, in our box here we have some steering bushings. These are the things that we're going to try to replace to help clean up a little bit of that slop. So these basically go in over here. Let's see, gotta get the handle out. But those are going to be basically down in there, those plastic nylon bushings. It's going to be a little bit of work, but hopefully with some TLC and just patience, we'll be able to get those replaced and clean up some of that play. That's our broken bolt right there that I was talking about. So we're going to get that extracted. We're going to clean out the rest of these holes. We're going to chase those all out with thread chasers. So this is the part that I'm going to work on, getting that up and out. This cluster has a bunch of wires on the back side under here. Try to get you down in here so you can kind of see all that. There's our wires, all our plugs. I'm going to try to use a little bit of blue tape. That's where all our stuff's coming down through the rubber boot. So I'm going to get that. I want to get that basically just taped up so we don't, you know, forget a plug or whatever. Get those, you know, marked, you know, 1 for 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 3, 4 for 5, or whatever. But I'm gonna set you guys up. I'm gonna keep going. Just want to keep this video moving. This is the part 2 series of this wave runner. So if you guys are liking it, please subscribe. Give me a like, give me a comment, whatever. So I'm just going to keep going here, and I'm going to throw that on the time lapse. Hopefully it doesn't get too boring for everybody. With my particular camera, just going to say this real fast. With my particular camera, it's the Osmos Pocket 3. This camera, if anybody's looking to get one, the video quality is very, very good. But when it comes to doing, like, I want to say dangerous, not to the person, but to the camera type of work where you're trying to get it down into tight areas, or you're going to be involved in sand, water, you know, rainy weather, these cameras might not be your best option. It'd probably be better to go with a GoPro where you can like fully seal out Mother Nature. You know, they can be dunked underwater. You can really like zoom them in super close. They're small. Not to say that this isn't small, but it's a little more fragile of a camera. It has its pros and its, you know, its cons, but that's why I kind of just like set you guys up on the little stand there, and you're kind of viewing me from a little bit of a distance. But if I was to bring you down in close to see exactly where I was working, it would probably do more damage to this camera, and we don't want to do that. being, you know, the cost of these things nowadays. So anyway, enough rambling. Let's get back to it, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. We're gonna try to make some good progress here, so hopefully we'll see what happens. And then if there's a part 3, there might be a part 3. If not, we'll get it knocked out, and then that way we'll get this project done and out of here. Stay tuned. Okay guys, I got you set up. Like I was saying, this camera has a couple good things about it, where it can track you, and that's what I kind of have you set up as right now. So as I move around, you won't be looking at a dark area or just hear my voice in the background and not see me working. So anyway, we're going to work on this upper part here. The cable, like we found out in the last video, it's pretty much seized. The cable here for the shifting for forward, reverse, and neutral, and then also the steering cable. As I'm looking down in here, it's very tight. They kind of basically run down and along the side of the engine and then go out to the back of that jet nozzle area. So I'm going to keep going on that, and then basically I think we'll move up to the upper part where we have to pop this instrument cluster out like I was talking about and get the wires disconnected and labeled up so we don't get anything mixed up. Most of the plugs are, you know, you can't plug something into the wrong connector. They're all different sized and shaped. So let's keep going. You guys listen to the music, and I'll basically be scrambling around this thing like I'm working at 100 miles an hour. I did want to mention real quick, it is maybe about a week before Thanksgiving, so I'm not going to get many more of these nicer days where the sun's shining, there's not blistery wind, freezing cold, you know, type of temperature. So we got to make good use of our timing. So let's get this done. Let's keep going. We're back. Little camera issues, dog issues, all part of life, right? All right, back in it here. Got our new shifter cable. I don't know if Yamaha does it for identification purposes, but the one like this shifter cable's obviously got a red outer jacket. I'm just assuming that that's so that they can identify, yeah, that's the shifter cable, because you know you got a bunch of other cables in here. You got your throttle cables, your trim cables. They're smaller, but I guess they just identify, you know, shifting with a certain color, because our steering cable's got a black outer jacket. So all right, get our cutters. I just want to test this real quick. Oh yeah, I mean, look at that. So this thing is curled up like a pretzel, and there's probably some bindage in there, but I can do that with barely any effort whatsoever. So this, we're just jammed, you know what I mean? So that's going to be exactly what you want. So this end is basically going to be here. Now, if you guys are doing this yourself, just going to make a note. You have some adjustment here. There's a little jam nut, and you have our basically our lock-on quick coupler attachment. There is a little bit of adjustment here, so just to find what's the happy medium. You can fine-tune adjust that once you get the cable in, and then kind of see as the the gate valve goes up and down where it actually feels like, yep, that stopped all the way at the top. Pull it back, that stopped all the way at the bottom. And then you can fine-tune not only this end, but you also have adjustment back here at the actual gate valve. This jam nut here is basically going to be your seal to the back of the ski. So you definitely want to make sure you got this good and snug. There's a little rubber gasket in here. If you don't, you're going to find out real quick that your ski's going to fill with water. You're not going to have a good day. So let's keep going here. There is one little piece under here that I think I have to remove this end quick coupler, slide it over, and attach it to the bracket that helps hold this cable like basically in place. So we'll have to probably transfer that from the old cable onto the new cable. Let's lay this down. What I'm working on is trying to get that sleeve off of there. It looks like it slips over. It's definitely a little tricky. Okay, I got it. It just slides in. It's like a two-piece. I'll show you in a second here how close. That is a blessing there. You just get it off of here, and then I'll show you how it kind of works up close. Okay. Okay. So these are the parts I was talking about. I'll bring you closer in here. So these are those two pieces, and the way that they work is, put this in the frame of the camera. You have your two pieces here, and they literally just slip in and it slides in, and then it basically locks. So once you have your cable over the center of that, then you slip this in, and then that's how your mounting bracket will hold in the corresponding bracket underneath. So that was good. I thought we would have to slip that all the way over, but that's not the case. So that's a plus. Okay. So now we're just left with the plain cable now. We can snake this through. The way it routes, it's a little bit of a frustrating mess, ain't gonna lie. So we come down and we go down through the side, basically, of the engine through a couple of zip ties, and it's routed along with the steering cable and a couple other wiring hoses and things like that. So I'm gonna speed us up on the time lapse, and then I'll show you once we kind of get going towards the back. I'll move the camera down there and show you what we got to get that jam nut free, and we'll keep going. All right, so this is what we're gonna have going on underneath here. I'm gonna flip you around so you guys can see how the cable's gonna go. All right, so down in here, you can kind of see where the cable goes through. You see the jam nut there. That basically gets tightened against that other part of the cable. That's basically going through the back side of the jet nozzle area. And then your cable basically is running, kind of comes across. You can see the red. I'm going to zoom out here for a minute, get you better. All right, so then you kind of are going along, keep going, and then it kind of comes up here, and then basically right there is where that slip-on bracket went over top of that cable, and then we basically pop up through the hole and we connect to our little ball basically right there. So in routing, you can't really like pre-route the cable and then slip it out the back because of the design. You kind of have to go in from the back, go up through all the monotonous little cavities, and then make sure you slip your nut back on the back end, and then basically work, you know, from the back up towards the front. And it's mostly just because of this, right? So right here, this little jam nut, you gotta basically, you know, have that loose, send it through, and then bring the nut on the back side, basically on the inside of this ski, get that tight. Like I said, that's your seal from water to go, you know, into your boat. You don't want that. So coming back here, we got this cable right here, basically is the other end of that shifting cable. So we got a couple like little small bolts that we got to get out. It's snug in here again. So you're going to need yourself a couple long extensions, maybe universal. These are all stainless steel bolts, but if this is the first time that these covers are coming off, please just take your time. You don't want to snap anything off. You're going to add more aggravation and time to your project. Nobody wants that. So coming back, and then after that, once this goes in, our steering cable is basically right there. It's going to be basically the same thing. It kind of goes up in there through the opening of the boat. That one looks a little more tedious, so you might want to have yourself a cold one if you need to calm your nerves. But I'm going to get us set up back in here down low. I'm just going to try to get these bolts undone so we can pull this cable completely through and get it ready to go back in. These are 10 millimeter, by the way. I had done some work on this ski prior, so I did have these bolts out before, and I did lubricate them. Sorry, I'm trying to let the thing focus. If you can see the grease on that. So that's why they're coming out a little easier for me now. Just trying to keep our bolts up where we can grab them again. So they're not fighting me as much. Kind of like I said in the beginning of the first part of this video series is when you have these bolts out and you're struggling to get them out, add yourself a little bit of lubricant to the bolt, anti-seize, whatever works, you know, whatever you have in your arsenal of, even grease. I mean, just a simple little thing of grease will do wonders. All right, so we have one more down low. Yeah, I'm gonna pull that one too, just to make it easier on us. So we have a total of 3 bolts here. This one I might need an extension. Let me get my extensions out. Beautiful. Okay, so let's bring our gate down, work our rubber out and about. So there's our 3 bolts. You can see 1, 2, 3. Keep that out of there. So now on the inside, I had that other side of the plastic nut free, and now I can pull this cable through. So now you can't just go gung-ho. Kind of got to make sure we don't get snagged coming through all that mess. So let me get back up there and work that out, and then I'll show you me putting this thing back in. It's a lot of back and forth, up and down. If you're working by yourself, it's just going to be the way it is. If you had a helper, I mean, you'd speed this whole process up. So I know you can't see me at the moment, but I am basically just cutting the zip ties that are sandwiching all the cables together, just so it makes it easier to maneuver this stuff out. Just be careful when you're cutting. You don't want to accidentally cut a hose or a wire. That's going to give you more frustration. All right, so I got my cables undone. Let's see if we can't snake this baby through. You guys can probably start to see that coming your way. All right, let's get her worked down and out. Okay. There she goes. And before you go all the way, remember that plastic nut's going to be on the inside. You don't want that to fall. You know, you just hate to have junk rolling around in your bottom of your ski. So I can see the other part of that cable. I'm going to go up and pull that plastic nut so we don't lose that. There you go. She's out. And just like we were trying with the other one, you can't even move this cable. It's a shame. But, you know, it is what it is. Time, corrosion, you know, all takes factors on these things. Salt water, you know, wicks its way in there, and then it just continues to take over. You know what I mean? This thing is just, oh, it's crazy. So let's get rid of this and get our other one routed back in. Okay, so here's our fresh new cable. Look at that. 2 fingers, basically 1 finger. You know, that's the way you want it. Just gonna make this jam nut a little snug. So, just like when we removed it, we basically got our nut off the inside of this. We're going to route that in. Then I got the nut up on the footwell. We'll put that on and then continue to route it in. So we're just going to feed this baby in there. Make sure our rubbers are where they need to be. Make sure you have your gasket on the other end. This will be a little bit slower because you have to kind of, you know, give it a direction basically of where it needs to be. So let's do that. Get our nut on there. Our brand new nut. We're just going to try to keep it in the same path that the original one was in. Doing one of these at a time is going to just help you stay sane. Okay, that wasn't too bad. All right. Okay, now we're pretty much routed where we need to be. Hi y'all. So now I'm just gonna get this basically through the hull there. Okay, we're in. And I want to try to keep this somewhat in a straight line. That way when we go to put a nut on, we don't get it cross-threaded. It's just plastic, so you don't have to kill this thing with, you know, a tremendous amount of torque. All right, that looks good. Just make sure your little rubber booties are placed right where they need to be. Those are basically there. They're not 100% waterproof, but they're there to kind of like shield some of the water to get, you know, not injected up into the cable, so you have this issue again. So let's just make sure that those are in. That's looking good. I'm going to go back under there and tighten up this nut. I'll give you a quick show of that. Now we're going back in here. That's where we're at. So you can see there's our nut. That's where we came through. We're going to bolt that into there. And then we're going to finish doing our work up here with the cable on our bracket. On our bracket right there. Get that little slip-on cover, this guy, back on there. Get that bolted in, and then we can route it back up through the hole. Sorry, I'm trying to get the camera to get it through that hole. And then basically we're gonna just leave it for now. We got the other cable to do, which kind of runs in the same pathway, and we'll get that one done. And then we'll slowly start, you know, zip tying everything back up, placing all that back in. And then we'll start on our monstrosity up here of this project and removing this whole upper piece. Appreciate you guys following along. Stick with it here. Hopefully you're watching this on a crappy rainy day where there's nothing else better to do but watch YouTube. I find it hard sometimes because I watch a lot of YouTube myself. It's hard to get up off that couch sometimes, and you got all these projects going on, and you're just like, yeah, one more video, 10 more minutes. And by the time you look at the clock, it's already noon, and you're like, oh man, what a bunch of wasted time. So today I needed to take advantage of the good weather and get this thing done. So that's what we're trying to do. I'm just using a wide pair of kind of like pliers just to get that nut snug, you know, and just a little bit more. Like I said, it's plastic, so you're not going to like torque it to 100 foot-pounds. Just like the old saying, good and tight, that's what you want. All right, now we're going to get this clip put over here. Kind of just slips and slides over itself. It has this little small, I know it's probably going to be hard for you guys to see, but it has this little detent right there, and that lines up with a little notch in the actual stainless steel cable, so you can't really like get it in the wrong place, is what I'm saying. Just like that, we slip the rubber over, get that in its spot. And we're just going to work this cable back up through the hole. Okay. Slip this guy over its two little studs. Beautiful. There's a couple other little small rubbers that go around here. You don't want to forget that stuff. Put that all back on. Get our bolts. There's our bolts. In our other rubber boot here, and find my bolts. Here they are. Okay, found my 2 little nuts here. No pun intended. I'm gonna look at the old one just to give me a rough idea of where we were at. Just trying to get a guesstimate here on the threads. That looks pretty good right there, actually. Again, this cable, wow, it's a shame. Nothing lasts forever, but it's definitely tight. I mean, it definitely takes some force to get it to move. But, oh, okay. I can kind of see why I failed now. I'll bring this closer to you guys. So, if you guys can see that real close there, see the splitting? Salt water got into that jacket. No good. Stays over. Okay. Let's snug that up now. Get this lined up with its hole. There we go. Gonna hold the other end with a pair of pliers. Okay. Clip that on there just like that. We'll get a zip tie and we'll get that zipped up. And then I'll bring you back down and we'll show you what we got left at the back there. I'm probably not going to hook that one up just yet because I have to work that steering cable and I got to flip that gate valve up and down, but at least this is done. That's in. Like I said, we'll zip tie everything back up nice once we get the steering cable in, and moving along. See you in a second. Okay, so we're back here zip tying this baby up. Okay, that's nice and snug now. Beautiful. All right, now we can do a quick check. This is a little in our way, but we can do a quick little check. Oh yeah. Money. Super nice. Okay. Let's go back down under there. I'll show you what we're gonna do. So that's where we're at. We're coming through there. And then this basically just gonna get connected up to our gate valve. So this is going to get connected right here. But like I said, you got to do a little fine-tune adjustment back here. So that's that. I'm going to go check the other cable real quick. And then that will just basically clip on there like that. So in the old cable, I'm going to get this nice and close so you guys can see. Get this thing to focus. Sorry if it's not focusing. Basically that little bit is what we want to match for our new one here. So let's do that. And it looks pretty damn close. I mean, these adjustments are definitely going to be micro adjustment. It's to really just get it dialed in. Okay, so that looks good. Let's get this tightened up. Have to hold the other part with our pliers. Definitely don't want this coming loose. All right, good and tight there. And then that can, just like I said, that's like your bottom out. So we're basically, sorry, we're a little bit above that. So we're right on there, bottomed out. I'm gonna go up and work the gate with my hand now, the handle, and I'm gonna let you guys see this thing move back and forth. That's how it works. Nice and smooth, very minimal effort, just like you want. So that's one project done. Now we gotta move on to the steering. So I'm gonna disconnect this again. And now we got to get in right there. So that one's going to be a little more tricky. So once we do that, we're going to do the same thing. Pull the nut off on the inside, go all the way up to the steering in the front. Basically, reversal of installation is just coming right back out the back. Going slow on the reinstallation, making sure everything gets in its right little path, and pretty much that's it. It's not too hard. Okay, so now I'm going to find this steering cable. Where's this one coming in at? Just as a side note, Yamaha did want a lot of money for these cables. I'm talking like almost 400 bucks, I think, for the steering cable, and like 380 bucks for that shifter cable. We went on eBay and got them a lot cheaper, more reasonable for, you know, a project like this that you're doing yourself. Quality, fit, finish, I mean, it looks damn identical. I mean, it's coming with, you know, all your little Heim joints and all the, you know, the quick connect, basically ball and socket pieces that when you buy them from Yamaha, these are all extra, you know what I mean? Everything is separate. So basically, I'm just getting a good eyeball on this to kind of see how this goes in and out. I think I'm figuring that out. So I'm just going to basically get this routed up in there and get that one out. So hang with me here. Okay, so we're back. I was able to get the cable released from the steering. Now we're 100% free from there. I did the same thing like the shifter cable at the back. We removed the rubber like deflector. Got the plastic nut removed. Up underneath here, you have this apparatus that kind of holds the cable up in there. That uses a special like little plunger style, I'm trying to think of the word I could say. It's more like just a hinged plate that has a hole cut into it, takes that little boss there and locks it in, and then you have one more sliding locking like tab that comes over so it can't come out of that. So it's pretty ingenious of a design, because it is very tight to get up in there to kind of get this thing undone. So, you know, pros to Yamaha on that right there, because that makes it easy. So it was looking a little terrifying there for a minute, but let me get this down and out and I'll show you what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm just trying to remember how the cable goes. Just continue to snake this down and out. I think we're going to have to push back a little bit here. We're going to have to send it back. Something doesn't feel happy. I think we're cut on the back end of there. Let me check that out. That's what it was. We were hung up on the little gate valve. Okay. Slow and steady movements here. That's how we win the race. Nope, I think we're still hung up again. This is where two people come in play. A little struggling, I guess. Still gets it. There we go. All right, now we should be good. Okay. I'm just gonna keep fishing this down. I just want to lift this up to show you guys. A lot of corrosion in here. I mean, if I had to unswivel this from this fitting, like I was saying, I don't know if it would have even happened. I mean, this thing it's corroded bad. So, and I can just see right here, there's a split. It's just time and age, you know. It sucks, but even the cable feels really like there's a lot of corrosion in there, you know what I mean? And again, see? You don't want your steering cable to have that much resistance in it. You need a turn when you need a turn, you know? So, I mean, this thing moves like butter now. This thing, no good. All right, so let's keep going here. Looks like we're almost all the way through. Push this a little bit along. You know what? I'm gonna hold up here for a second. While it's out here now, easy to get access to, I don't believe this part will allow me to go through the hole at the back of the boat. So we do need to get this off. So if this becomes like, I guess, unremovable, and just cut the cable. This is trash anyway. So we're gonna see if we can actually get it to break free real quick, just for YouTube. I'm gonna go up one size. See if we can't get this thing to come off. More than likely, we're gonna just cut this thing. Oh yeah, God. Not worth the aggravation, my friend. Not worth the aggravation. I'm gonna go get my big cutters and we'll nip that right there and we'll be able to slip it through. Hang tight. So I'm using just the old standard Harbor Freight bolt cutters. Criminals have these in their back pocket. You guys could use anything, a cut-off saw. And I have a cut-off saw, because that doesn't look like it's working very well. Make a good bike lock. I'm gonna try to go the other way. Keep that tight, work that. All right, let me go get my cutoff saw so we're not frustrated and working hard here. So hang with me 1 second, I'll bring you right back. All right, everybody, so we're back. I had to go grab my little, excuse me, cutting tool. Our bolt cutters just wasn't doing the trick. So, just gonna get this cut. That's that. So, if yours wasn't so corroded out and you could get that off, you wouldn't obviously have to cut the cable. It would be able to go right through. So ours was a little bit more corroded than I really wanted to put effort into, so that's trash anyway. So now put our tool down. Okay, so now we're going to continue to fish this cable at the back end. Just remember, when you get towards the end, grab your nut so it don't get lost. You know, any junk you can keep out of the bottom of your boat, the better. These newer skis have bilge pumps, so you just don't want all that stuff getting accumulated around. If there's dirt and leaves, try to give yourself a good, you know, power washing out. Get this thing tilted way up, get all that stuff to drain. Once it's all clean and dry, give your engine a good coating before you put it away for the winter. It's going to do you wonders for springtime startup. All right, so we got our cable out. I'm just going to do a quick visual on it. I mean, besides just some of this area where the rubber boots basically are, that kind of like keep the majority of the water out, that makes this cable slide inside of itself. That looks pretty rough. I don't see anything just yet on the jacket of the cable like we did on the shifter cable, where it was like split and allowing water to go in. So probably just a, you know, collaboration of both. You know, and the thought is, man, I wish I could just spray some lubricant down in here and get the oils to kind of like go inside the cable. I don't know, that's it's a good thought, it's a good try. Sometimes you might be able to make it work, but at a certain point it's like beating a dead horse, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't think you're ever going to get it as lubricated as it needs to be all the way through and through, you know. The salt water got in somehow, and then it just looks for that new fresh metal to keep growing on. So you would have that in there as well. So it's just best to do this, you know what I mean? Replace it, as much aggravation as it is. All right, so that's that. So let's get this one back in. So now that this end can come off, I'm going to unswivel this off. when we look at the new one, and you can compare it to the old one, it was basically all the way down. So we're just going to get this tightened all the way down and then basically give it a good little tightening so it doesn't get loose, and that's it. And then basically I got to reference our adjustment here. This is going to definitely come into play because you're steering left to right, you want it equal, right? You don't want one way to go a little bit more than the other, so you need to dial this in just right. So these are factory cables that we did remove. So I'm going to loosen this up and kind of make this match not only here, but at the other end as well. So we're pretty much dialed into what the factory wanted this thing to be at. Just slipping the plastic nut over as we have to come in through the back end. Same thing as reversal. Just double check your washer here. This is your sealing washer for the back end of the boat. I want to make sure that that's, got any rips or tears. It shouldn't have anything, but you never know. All right, let's get this baby routed up in there. Again, you kind of got to do this slow because you got to kind of route it throughout the engine bay here. I'm going to get my plastic nut put back on so we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. These cables are pretty stiff, so getting them maneuvered through here is a little bit of a challenge, so just go easy. So now I have the cable pushed all the way through the hole in the back of the boat. I'm going to get the nut tightened in real good. Remember, not overly tight because it's plastic. Just Guten tight, and we'll be good there. And then we'll come back under here and I'll make sure I tighten up that nut with the swivel here before we go and we put that back in. I'm not going to connect that cable up to the steering just yet because we have to get up here and get all this removed so we can get those new bushings put in. The cable placement was a hurdle in itself to get these done. So now that those are pretty much done, that's a hell of a relief. Everything else is just basically up here, right? So majority of the other stuff now that's in the engine bay seems to be, the hard part's sort of over. I don't want to count my blessings just yet, but this will be another little, hurdle to tackle. We might do a part 3 in this. I'll see how I feel once we get these cables in. So let's keep going. I don't want to keep making this video longer and longer. Climb in here a little bit. I like to do a lot of this by hand right out of the gate. This way you're not going to strip anything when you go to apply a little bit of torque. Okay, that's good and tight. Nice. All right, I'm going to set you guys up down here at the back of the boat so we can do our tightening of our steering. All right, so in there is where our cable came through the back of the boat. This is where basically we got to connect our heim joint up to our steering jet nozzle. That's what we're going to do. Okay. What I'm going to check real quick is our adjustment here for the end of that heim joint. I want to just match that to the old one. So that's what we're looking at, basically spacing right there. So I'm going to see if we can't match that. Let's see. Looks like we need a little bit more. We can thread this out a little bit. And maybe go back in just a smidge. Maybe one full turn. That looks about good. Yeah, okay. Try to hold this here. I'm gonna have to get my pliers. Get these set. I'm sorry if you guys can't see too good. This is just a tight spot. Okay. I guess going hindsight 2020, could have tightened this up before we put it all the way in. But who doesn't like a struggle, right? Nice and tight. Okay, good. So that's not going anywhere now. Well, this just doesn't drop through. It basically threads into this little nozzle. So if you guys are taking this back out, just be cautious of that. If you're trying to, you know, beat the bottom of the bolt and it ain't moving, it's not because it's frozen in there. It's because it threads into its housing here. So let's get this drawn in. It is a 5mm. I just caught myself. Hold on a minute. There's a washer that goes on the top side of this. Right here. That's why it's kind of good to leave some of your hardware close to by where you're working. That way you don't accidentally, you know, have to take 2 steps back because you forgot to put something in. Let's get this thing started. Yep, that looks good. Get this going. Through. Put our washer and our nut on there. That's mostly like a backup nut. I guess they thread this in for more safety. You know what I mean? You lose your steering, you're totally screwed, you know? It's just as important. So they actually add a little redundancy. This is good. All right, that's snug and tight. That's snug and tight. All right, snug and tight there. Oh yeah, this is so much nicer. I mean, it's not hooked up to the handlebar yet, but that cable moving with inside of its, you know, outer jacket. Look at that, one finger. You know what I mean? No effort, not like what we had before with the cable. You know what I mean? Crazy. So, all right. So the only thing left now, everything's hooked back up. We can re-hook up our shifter cable on the other side. We're gonna put our little rubber deflectors in. like I said before, if this is the first time you're, you know, pulling these rubber boots or rubber deflectors off and those bolts are a little corroded, you might want to wire wheel them, throw a little bit of marine grease on there. Because this, you know, this is definitely an area to probably be back into, because just the nature of the beast, if you're changing your wear ring, or, you know, you get another, you know, potential failure for some unknown reason, you know, this area is definitely a place you'd probably be coming back to. And always with stainless, you know, try not to use impacts, because stainless has a high potential to gall and, you know, lock onto itself. So if you add some grease, reduce that friction so you don't gall the threads. Go by hand so you can kind of feel it before it becomes too late. You'll save yourself more aggravation. Ask me how we know. Again, just route this in. This kind of goes in there. And... oh, okay. Nope. So this one, my plug goes back in here. This one has this hole right here. That's where that shifter cable is going to go through. There we go. Okay. Just take your time, get things, you know, routed in where they need to go. And again, we drop some stuff, so let's grab this. Again. There we go. Pop this in spot. Get your bolts started. Plug there. All right. Let's plug on our thing. You can put a little bit of, you know, marine grease on this ball and socket. That would only improve and help it. So now our handle's moving in and out. I can see that, so that's good. I'm just going to leave it there. That's where it wants to be right now, because we don't have our handle fully closed. So everything is good. That's hooked up. Both of our plastic nuts are on the back side, good and tight. All of our rubbers are in, so that's good. Steering cable's hooked up. I mean, that thing is like butter. Now, it's not hooked up to the handlebars like I said before, but I mean, that is so much better. So, all right, good progress back here. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna pause the video now. I'm gonna just I guess we'll do a number 3 on this one. I'm sorry, guys, but I just don't want to drag these videos out too much. It's a lot of editing, and we just basically I'll make it 3 good, sweet videos. This way it basically flows a little bit better. I don't want people to get too bored. So the next video we're going to get into will be us getting that top portion taken apart, and then basically splitting that thing in half, getting our bushings put back in to try to be helpful enough to get some of that slop cleaned up a little bit, if any. I don't know, like we had the in the last video I had mentioned that we were going to go to the local dealership. I did go to the local dealership. I tested out a brand new one of these machines to see how much play was in the steering. It kind of had a little bit, you know what I mean? Not a lot. I did test another machine that they had out in the lot that was very similar age, model, everything. Had the same amount of play as this one. So we're in here anyway, so we're gonna do it. The bushings were cheap enough. We're gonna just make it better than it is now. So once we do that, we'll get that back together. We'll clean up and chase those threads. And yeah, I think we're going to be able to slap this thing together and get it back to the owner. And he's probably get it back on his, Facebook Marketplace, so that way, if there's anybody interested in buying this unit, they'll be able to have it and enjoy it for the next summer and the next couple summers after that. So I just want to thank everybody for watching the Crazy Mayday channel. Again, like I said, please subscribe. There's been a thing, I don't know, with YouTube. I've been watching a lot of YouTube on how it's changing a little bit. I don't see it very much because I'm kind of like at the bottom of the totem pole, more or less, as this is a newer channel, so I don't have thousands and thousands of followers or subscribers, so maybe it's not affecting me as much. But I'm just I'm trying to learn from what other YouTube people are saying, the ones that have been doing this for 10 years 15 years already. There's certain keywords in videos that YouTube's algorithms, computers, AI stuff picks up on and moves videos around. There's also a lot of copyright stuff that gets filtered into it too. So anyway, just wanted to say thank you again for watching. I'm going to keep going on this one, so I want you guys to stay tuned. I'm going to hopefully get the next one out a little bit faster. We were waiting on parts, so I appreciate everybody watching. And if you like it, give me a like. If not, no worries. I appreciate everybody taking some time to watch my videos, and we'll try to keep them coming. I got some other projects in the background going right now, so if you like them, stay tuned. Thank you. See you guys.